Alright, team, so we are back, of course, to talk about some Final Fantasy VII. We're kicking off the new year with another edition of Literally Doesn't Make Sense, a series of videos where I look way too much into Final Fantasy VII, plot holes, inconsistencies, whatever. Sometimes it's just me complaining about fighting underwater. I don't know why. But before we hop into it, speaking of the new year, we did get a New Year's message from Yoshinori Kitase. And it says, I'm so incredibly thankful that Final Fantasy VII Remake was played by so many people. Our teams are hard at work right now so that further developments will live up to the passion you all show. Please look forward to the ever-expanding world of FF7. The official translation for that is slightly different, but it doesn't really add anything to it anyways, and it's overall not that important. Just thought I'd read it really quickly. Anyways, on to the video. So what we're looking at here is Cloud's recollection of the Nibelheim Incident, the Kalm Flashback. There are parts of that are... They don't make sense. They're very, very inaccurate. I know that sounds kind of crazy because that's literally almost the entire plot of Final Fantasy VII, obviously, but it's not that. It's more from a technical level, from a storytelling level. It's something I noticed pretty recently when we were doing one of the Genova videos. We've done a few of them. I don't know which one it was, and I was looking back at the Kalm Flashback. That's where you get that first big reveal of Genova. Obviously, you see her in the Shinra building first, but during the Kalm Flashback, once they get to the Nibelheim reactor, you get the actual reveal of her in that tube. And I was looking at that for a video, and then something hit me. A lot of the stuff that happens during the Nibelheim Incident, Cloud could not possibly know, and here's why. When we get the reveal later on in the story of FF7, where Cloud's memories aren't accurate, a lot of what he thinks he did, Zack actually did, he was still present there for those moments, which is probably why, he mixed the memories up, right? He was there, he's seen it, heard it, whatever, but he didn't actually do it himself. A lot of stuff we learned from the Kalm Flashback, Cloud wasn't even present for. The first example I can give of this is when we go to the Nibelheim reactor. This is where Cloud and Sephiroth, or Zack and Sephiroth, go inside to figure out what the problem is with the reactor. They find the Genova above the door. They see the monsters in the chambers. Sephiroth starts questioning his existence. The thing is, Cloud couldn't possibly know any of that. And the reason being is later on in the story in Midil, whenever Tifa and Cloud fall into the live stream and Cloud's piecing his memories back together, we learn that the entire time during that mission to Nibelheim, that Cloud was the random Shinra soldier the entire time. Which means whenever they first get to the Nibelheim reactor, Zack and Sephiroth go inside. Cloud is the random security soldier that stays outside and watches the stairs and keeps Tifa safe, so to speak. He was never inside. He couldn't possibly know what went down inside there, the conversation that Zack and Sephiroth even had. We also know this based on Crisis Core, where we get more backstory on Cloud and Zack, but also they go more in-depth on the Nibelheim Incident, and they didn't retcon this or change it up to where Cloud could be present in that room. He's still outside of the reactor the entire time. Another example I can give is the Shinra Mansion basement segment, where Sephiroth goes in there and researches for a week straight or whatever. Cloud was never in that basement. He could never possibly know what went on down there or the conversation that Zack and Sephiroth might have ever had. This is based on the original game and, of course, Crisis Core. With the original game, you see whenever Cloud Zack is going upstairs to eventually get to the Shinra basement, you see the random soldier standing to the side. That is actually Cloud, of course. We also see this with Crisis Core. Cloud stays upstairs, Zack goes down into the basement. Now, we never see the conversation between Zack and Sephiroth within Crisis Core. It cuts away to a montage of Sephiroth researching, but the point is, Cloud was never down there. So when we get to this part of the Kalm Flashback where Cloud Zack is having a full-on conversation with Sephiroth in the basement, and he's remembering everything word for word, it doesn't make any sense, because he wasn't present for that conversation. He's still upstairs somewhere. Not to mention, right after that, whenever we leave the Shinra Manor, that's when the Nibelheim Incident really kicks off, and again, how is Cloud recalling all of this when he's not there for it? I know he's the Shinra soldier that's kind of knocked out right there in the middle of town, and maybe he's drifting in and out of consciousness and he can recall some of the things that happen here, but again, he's not the one doing all of this. Not to mention the entire journey that Zack takes from the town of Nibelheim back up to the reactor, Cloud's not present for that. In the beginning parts of them inside that reactor, Cloud's not there either. Whenever Tifa gets stabbed and Zack gets messed up by Sephiroth, Cloud's not there for that. But how is he telling that with the Kalm Flashback? We even see with the Midil segment where Cloud's supposed to be getting his actual memories back that he's not anywhere present during the time where Tifa finds her father dead, gets attacked by Sephiroth, Zack runs in there, also gets bodied by Sephiroth. Cloud comes in extra late after all that's already taken place. So you bring it back to the beginning of the game, the Kalm Flashback where Cloud is telling this part of the story, the second visit to the Nibelheim reactor where Sephiroth's already enraged on a rampage. He's not here for any of this. He's still knocked out in the middle of town, down the mountain and shit. He's nowhere near any of this happening, yet somehow he's telling the story. It's all accurate, too. It's just not him. Even Sephiroth tearing down the effigy, the big reveal of the actual Genova, things like that. These are all things that are true and did happen, but Cloud's nowhere near this. Seems like a major oversight to me from the developers. They want to give you that big swerve, later on in the story, and it's an effective swerve, man. I didn't understand it as a kid, but obviously later on, I appreciate it for what it is. But there's some, major inconsistencies here, man. Because they want to cover up the fact that none of this is actually Cloud, right? Through most of the game until the big reveal later. Once we get the big reveal of Zack and that Cloud was actually there for the Nibelheim incident, he was just the random Shinra soldier, we get a montage of all the moments he was present for, and it makes sense, because again, he was present for them. Like the back of the truck, for example, he's there with Zack, he's going to see Zack doing those squats that we see Zack doing all throughout Crisis Core, so it makes sense during the Kalm Flashback part, why when he recalls the story, he's the one doing the squats. Again, it makes sense, because he's there. Similarly, with the entrance to Nibelheim, whenever Sephiroth asks how it feels to be back at his hometown, and now, for one, Sephiroth's talking to Cloud directly in that moment, but again, that makes sense why he recalls this accurately. And we even see whenever Cloud's getting his memories back that, again, he was the knocked out soldier in the middle of town, and again, at this moment, Zack, Tifa, and Sephiroth are already up the mountain at the Nibelheim reactor. He's nowhere near that, yet with the Kalm Flashback, and even when Cloud's getting his actual memories back, supposedly, we're seeing the beginning of what took place in there, despite Cloud not being able to know what happened, or at least shouldn't be able to. Look, my dudes, I love me some Final Fantasy VII. Obviously, that's what my channel is dedicated to. It's what I talk about goddamn every day of my life. But this just, again, seems like such a massive oversight to me by the developers to try to cover up their swerve, because they're having Cloud tell moments of the Nibelheim incident that he's not even present for. The only thing that could kind of save all this is if there's, at some point, Zack relaying the events of the Nibelheim incident to Cloud before he dies. Like, at some point, he went beat by beat from when they arrived in Nibelheim till after their, 3-year stasis in Mako. Like, he just told Cloud everything verbatim with the most intricate details possible of what took place in Nibelheim with Sephiroth and the basement and the reactor, all those other things. Exactly what Jenova looked like everything. Like, he just told Cloud literally everything. That's the only thing that kind of saves this. I don't believe there's a canonical thing for that. Now, they had a long truck ride, potentially, right, before Zack dies, and maybe he had nothing to talk about but the events of Nibelheim, and maybe that's when he could have told Cloud all this, but we don't ever see that. So for all the reasons we talked about and discussed within this video, parts of the Kalm Flashback and Cloud's memories, despite the already messed up memories, literally don't make any sense. This one I think was a lot more substantial than the ones we've done in the past because it feels like an oversight by the developers or intentionally deceptive to cover up their swerve. I don't know which one it is. Unless there is some obscure, like, Ultimania somewhere or a confirmation from the devs or something that I'm just not aware of Zack relaying all this information, this info dump to Cloud. It just doesn't make sense that he'd have knowledge for certain segments of the Nibelheim incident because he was either knocked out or just not present for some of them. Either way, my dudes, that is the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys aren't new. Listen to more Final Fantasy VII content. Turn on my notifications. Follow me on Twitter at dashingdavidYT and my Discord. Links to my social networks are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Logain or leave it like Cobain.